After about 2 years of molesting my son and all the pornography that I had been buying, renting, swapping, I had gotten my hands on some bondage and discipline pornography with children involved. And some of the reading that I had done and the pictures that I had seen showed total submission, forcing the children to do what I wanted. And I had eventually started using some of this bondage and discipline with my own son.
Sometimes he was rough with the swimming. Sometimes he would just yank me out of the water by my hair, and he would shake you, and we practiced him holding me under the water, how long I could take it.
What do you mean, how long you could take it?
We would go under, and I would fight him to get air, and then he would give me air.
What do you mean you would fight him to get air?
He wasn't nice anymore during the sex.
You have to put the mic in.
He wasn't nice anymore during the sex.
And you were 11?
I was 11.
The reason you're having trouble is it's not facing you. Face it towards
I know. I need to use the restroom. I need a break.
Okay, we'll take a recess and we'll resume at 3:30 or 2:30, I'm sorry.
However, there is another type of offender who not only inflicts emotional abuse, but damages the victim physically as well. This next man, Gerald, is a sadistic sex offender. As he'll tell us, he is sexually aroused by inflicting pain. The victim he's describing is his 9-year-old stepson.
After about 2 years of molesting my son and all the pornography that I had been buying, renting, swapping, I had gotten my hands on some bondage and discipline pornography with children involved. And some of the reading that I had done and the pictures that I had seen showed total submission, forcing the children to do what I wanted. And I had eventually started using some of this bondage and discipline with my own son. And it had escalated to the point where I was putting a large Ziploc bag over his head and taping it around his neck with black duct tape or black electrical tape and raping and molesting him at that point, to the point that he would turn blue, pass out. At that point, I would rip the bag off his head, not for fear of hurting him, but because of the excitement. I was extremely aroused by inflicting pain. And when I seen him pass out and change colors, that was very arousing and heightening to me. And I would rip the bag off his head, and then I'd jump up on his chest and I'd masturbate in his face and make him suck my penis while he was, as he started to come back awake. While he was coughing and choking, I would rape him in the mouth. I used the same sadistic styled act of the plastic bag and the tape 2-3 times a week, and that went on for, I'd say, a little over a year. If I hadn't been arrested when I was, my stepson would be dead. I would have killed him. If it wasn't for the fact that my landlord had found some pornographic pictures of my son in the attic of the home where we were living, I would probably still be molesting. Pain and how arousing I found it was if a child was screaming, I would tell myself that, the child's not really hurting, because I know in all reality I know I was hurting the child. But the only way that I could continue the act was to tell myself that I wasn't hurting the child. I really wasn't hurting him or her. And I found the more I told myself that, the more I believed it. And then I found that if the child tried to pull away or would scream, holler, cry, and all my lying to myself would enhance that and make it more arousing to me. And the pain, the aspect of inflicting pain was extremely arousing. It was something that had taken time to build up. It didn't just happen. It took time to build that up. At the time, I didn't have any feelings for anybody other than myself. I wanted me to feel good, and it didn't make a difference who hurt in the process as long as I felt good. I was very apathetic. I had very little feelings for anybody. At that point in my life, I don't think I had empathy for anybody, including myself. I'm not even sure I knew what empathy was at that point. I didn't care about other people's feelings. I didn't care for other people, period.
Gerald's sadistic attacks continued despite the fact that his stepson reported him repeatedly. No one believed the child. As you might expect, Gerald didn't confine his sexual assaults to the home, In fact, he had a lengthy history of attacking children outside the home as well. He had molested children from ages 4 to 16, with a preference for 10 to 14-year-old boys.
Did you think what was happening with you and your father was normal or abnormal?
I knew it was extremely abnormal, and I wasn't going to let anyone find out. It was nice to be with him. I didn't like what I was doing, but I figured that it was just me, and then I would get used to it. I didn't think my dad was doing something wrong.
Did you think anything that had happened up till then was wrong or unnatural or abnormal or weird or anything like that?
No.
Your relationship with your father, in the sense of what did you think your father thought of you?
I didn't think he liked me very much.
And why was that?
Because I used to cry a lot, and because I wasn't as strong as Lyle, and I wasn't as good as Lyle in the things he wanted me to do.
What kinds of things did he do that made you believe he didn't like you very much?
He told me that I was a sissy, that I was a coward, and that I wasn't good enough to be in the family. He hit me with the belt. He did all kinds of things.
Now, did your father also hit Lyle?
Yes.
Was he also mean to Lyle sometimes?
Yes.
But what was it your father said or did that was different with respect to Lyle than with respect to you?
I don't know, he just seemed to care more about Lyle. In my mind, it was pretty clear. I wanted to be like Lyle. I wanted to be as good as Lyle. I wanted to be liked as much as Lyle. He used to come into my room and give me massages.
Now, Mr. Menendez, these massages that your father gave you in your room, what were the previous massages like? And where did they occur?
At swimming. He would massage my legs, my thighs, my calves to get me ready to go swimming.
The massages in your room, how did they begin? What types of massages were they in the beginning?
Just the body massages.
Did the massages change in character in any way?
Yes.
And what was the change?
He had me take off my underwear. He would have me turn over onto my back. He would massage my genitals 2-3 times a month, massaging me with his mouth. My penis. And he was great. He was kind. He never said anything negative to me. He told me that I was part of the family and that I belonged and that this was good. Well, he explained to me very clearly that this was something between us, and what he said is that this would stop if I told anyone, and then I wouldn't be alone with him anymore, and then I wouldn't get this attention.
And did you want it to stop?
No.
Why?
Because it was the only time I got to spend alone with my dad. It was the only time I got to be with him and for him to be nice and caring with me. It made me feel like I had a relationship with my dad.
Now, apart from these times when he was alone with you, doing these massages, did he treat you better than he had in the past?
Yes, he seemed to care about me. He seemed to love me, and that's all that I wanted.
And up until the point when you left Muncie, what sorts of things did he have you do to him?
He was just asking me to massage his body.
At some point, Mr. Menendez, did the massages that you were doing on your father change?
Yes,
And what happened next?
I just touched him.
And did anything else happen after you touched his genitals?
Yes.
Do you remember whether or not at that point your father had an erection?
Yes, he did.
And how did you feel about his asking you to massage him with your mouth?
I didn't want to do that because I had never seen him like that, and I didn't want to do it.
Did it frighten you?
Yes. He started using different tools and wanting me to do things to him so that he would show me how, and he would do them to me.
What part of your body were you supposed to use this thing on?
My butt. I didn't like what was going on. I thought it was really dirty. He wasn't nice anymore during the sex.
You have to put the mic in.
He wasn't nice anymore during the sex.
And you were 11?
I was 11.
The reason you're having trouble is it's not facing you. Face it towards
I know. I need to use the restroom. I need a break.
Okay, we'll take a recess and we'll resume at 3:30 or 2:30. I'm sorry.
He came toward my room. All I could think about was him coming toward my room and how I was hoping he wasn't going to do that.
Do what?
Come toward my room.
Why?
Because I didn't want him to come into my room when he was angry. He came into the room and he told me to kneel down on my bed.
Okay.
And I did, and he came over to my bed and threw me off the bed and told me to kneel on the floor. And he pulled out his penis. And in some way, either by his hand on my head or by telling me, he told me he wanted me to massage his penis with my mouth. I had to give him a massage on my knees until he started to have an orgasm. I was ready to pull away like I'd always done, and then he just came on a towel or a sheet, whatever he had with him. So I was about to pull away because I didn't know what was going to happen because we weren't on a bed and I was just kneeling down. And he said, "No, swallow," and he held my head to him.
And did you swallow?
Partly.
And did this upset you?
Yes.
And how did you demonstrate being upset?
I was crying.
And how did he react to your crying?
He pushed me away afterwards, and I just went to the bathroom and threw up.
Where was the bathroom in relation to your bedroom?
It was in the middle of the hall,
In the middle between what and what?
between my bedroom and my parents' bedroom. I threw up almost every time when he would come in my mouth.
Was his attitude after this different than it had been?
Yes, it changed dramatically.
And how was he from then on?
He was no longer nice. He now yelled at me all the time. He forced me to do things. I had to do whatever he said, and it didn't matter if I complained or if I said no or if I said, "Please stop." He didn't stop.
And did rough sex involve your father hurting you with things?
Yes. Needles, pins, tacks,
What was he doing with the
Rope.
needles? Excuse me?
rope.
And would that hurt?
Yes, very much so.
And when those activities were going on, was your mother still checking you out?
Yes.
Did you think your mother knew what was going on?
No, I didn't.
Were there times when, following one of these episodes with your father, you'd be crying?
Yes.
Did your mother ever come upon you when you were crying?
Sometimes after these, I'd have to go downstairs to dinner, or afterwards, and she would come when she'd see me crying.
Did she ever ask you why you were crying? when it followed one of these episodes with your father?
There was times when I was unable to come down to dinner
Why was that?
because I was crying too much, or I was too much of a mess, and I was shaking, and I couldn't come down to dinner. I used to get these pounding headaches, sort of like sears through my brain, and my dad would say, "You're not going down to dinner." Sometimes I would go down to dinner with my eyes red.
And what
but
would happen? How did your father react to that?
He didn't like it, and sometimes he would cope with it, and he just wouldn't talk to me. I was usually ignored at dinner anyway, but this time he really wouldn't talk to me. Well, I just had trouble dealing with it.
And
Really, I had trouble dealing with the fact that my father no longer loved me, more than anything else. But it was because when it got painful, it was harder. But when it was just giving him massages, it was just because he didn't love me. Before anything really painful started to happen, I felt very depressed and very lonely because I lost my dad's love, and I didn't understand why I did that.
you said at some point your father had anal sex with you. Is that right?
Yes.
And how old do you believe you were when that happened?
I was in 6th grade. I guess, I'm pretty sure I was 12.
When you were 12, do you recall the day that he succeeded?
Yes. It was very, very painful.
And do you know if on that occasion anyone else was in the home besides yourself and your father?
No, I was alone in the house with my dad. And he started going into me like he had always done, but this time he was going in too far. And I said, "Dad, please stop." And I said, "Dad, you're hurting me." And he just kept on going further. At one point, I just started screaming, and I started saying, "Stop, it hurts, it hurts." I just sort of died off. I stopped screaming, and I just sort of left myself.
You left yourself?
I just pretended that it wasn't happening. I pretended that the pain wasn't happening, and I just went away in my mind. It was too painful. And he said, very calmly, and looked at me, and told me to look him in the eyes, and he said, "Next time you ever scream or yell, I'm going to beat you so bad you'll never be able to scream or yell again."
What kind of mood was he in?
He was in a very stern, very serious, very strong mood. I took a hot bath and just promised myself to do whatever he wanted, never to scream, never to yell, never to cry. Just do what he wanted when it happened.
Over the previous couple of years, in the incidents with your father, had the talking stopped?
He didn't want me to say a word when he spoke, and he talked about silence. When he talked, he would talk, but he would never want me to say a word unless he spoke to me. And when he talked, he would give me lectures about silence, about the Romans, about the Greeks. He would lecture me about different things. He told me all about silence.
What about silence, Mr. Menendez? What did he tell you?
He told me that silence was the greatest thing that man had. He said that it was the greatest power that anyone could achieve, and that with silence you could control anyone.
Was there a time then when the sexual episodes with your father were totally and completely silent?
Yes.
When he would say nothing whatsoever?
Yes, then it would be silent.
Now, why, Mr. Menendez, did you come to label these incidents nice sex?
Because of how bad the rough sex was.
Okay. So by comparison, these were nice.
Yes.
What was different about this? And you don't have to describe everything that was done here, okay? Just the general feeling of it.
It wasn't violence. He wouldn't come in and have nice sex when he was in a bad mood. He would always do it when he wanted to relax, when he had a tough day at work, he said, and he just wanted to be comfortable with me. He would come in and have this with me.
What was different about rough sex?
It was very strange. It was very dark. He turned off the lights. He put candles around the bed and on my nightstand and on my dressers, and he would light them, and he would put the candles in cups. The cups that he would bring from the kitchen or different plates that were in my bedroom. And it would be very dark, and it would be very quiet. And he would do these things to me.
Did your father announce to you something about pain training?
Yes, he did. He would stick things in me as he was giving me oral sex, or at times he would just sit on the bed with his legs up, spread, and with his back to the back of the bed, and he would have me give him oral sex, and he would stick the needles or the tacks into my thighs as he was doing this. He would put a towel under my legs, and he would just cut my thighs with the knife.
And do you have a scar that is still visible on your thigh from when he did that?
Yes. It's about that long.
And do you recall that that's something that was done during one of these episodes?
Yes.
Was there something, Mr. Menendez, that you called the mirror?
Yes. Sometimes it would just happen after I played tennis, or just when he got home and wanted to know how I practiced. He would have me stand up in the mirror. If it was after sex, I'd be doing it naked. If it was after tennis, I'd have my tennis clothes on. And he'd walk around behind me and ask me questions. I would say, yeah, I think I played well. And he would say, wrong.
And now what was supposed to happen, if anything, when he said, wrong?
I'd have to hit myself in the head.
You'd have to hit yourself?
Yes.
Without hitting yourself, would you just show us what you were supposed to do? But don't hit yourself.
I'd have to go like this. There were times when I just couldn't take it anymore. It would just well up inside of me, and I couldn't stand it.
What did you hear that led to putting cinnamon in your father's drinks, if anything?
I heard that it made it taste better.
It made what taste better?
His semen.
That you developed a rather peculiar eating habit.
Yes.
Did you think it was peculiar?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. That's my word?
Yes.
What did you do?
I used a lot of lemon in my food.
And what do you mean by used a lot of lemon? What are we talking about here?
Well, in essence, I would put the lemon in the bowl first, and then put whatever I was going to put in the bowl. I would just drown my food in lemon.
So would you consume a large quantity of lemon every week?
Every day.
Did you notice it had any effect on your sense of taste?
Yes.
What would happen?
I wouldn't taste as much. I did it for a specific purpose, but it didn't seem to work all that well.
What was the purpose for which you were doing it?
So that I wouldn't have to taste my dad's.
Okay.
It was the look in his eyes. It was the way he would look at me, through me, past me. He would. I remember at one time he stuck me with a tack, and it really went far into me, and I sort of went, and he just twisted his head around and looked right through me, and it was scary. It was like a glazed look. It was as if he wasn't there. It was as if he was, or didn't think I was there. It was really scary because I didn't know what he would do.
On these occasions, could you know what he was thinking?
I had no idea what he was thinking.
And why was that particularly scary?
Because of what he was doing. I didn't even know if he saw me when he was in the middle of it. It just was really weird.
Okay. Now, in the past, if you had lost a tournament, how would your father react?
He would get extremely angry and yell, sometimes hit me, or have some sort of sex with me.
sex was a punishment?
Yes.
Was it always a punishment or only when you were a teenager?
Only when I was a teenager.